24 past 8, a sunny day right across the region today. Frost and fog this morning. Tops around the 17, 18 degree mark. Time to catch up with One Nation leader, Senator Pauline Hanson. Pauline, good morning.
Good morning, Stephen.
Now, this is the news that seems to be, still in the papers, is the International Criminal Court's decision that is going to seek arrest warrants for Benjamin Netanyahu and the Israeli Defence Minister, as well as three leaders of Hamas. There's been absolutely no leadership whatsoever from our federal government on this. In fact, the mealy-mouthed response from our Prime Minister was disgraceful.
Well, Stephen, over the months, what we've seen since October the 7th, there hasn't been any leadership from the Prime Minister, the Greens, or the Labor Party as such. And even to have Senator Payman stand up and said the rivers to the sea after Albanese said he disagreed with it, there was no real sort of pushback whatsoever. If you look at some footage of Albanese in the past, he's there pushing the Palestine argument. That was years ago when he was a lot younger. And so this is what he truly believes. He does not believe in Israel. Even the changing, the state, the head of state, the embassy in Israel as well. So he's done nothing to appease the whole fact. This is all mealy mouth. He is weak. He's pathetic. He is no leader at all. And I said that right from the beginning, Stephen. He's not showing leadership. And actually, we should get out of being a signatory to the Roman Statute, and that's what the ICC is. Get out of it.
Well,
we shouldn't pay any more money to them. It's just ridiculous. It's run by a lot of Muslim countries, African countries, that are not with the Western way of life, and they want to see the destruction of Israel.
Well, it's funny you mentioned that, because I was going to talk about this later on this morning, that I read a headline this morning suggesting that a panel of experts had called out, because Peter Dutton has suggested that if he wins the election, he might consider pulling out of the ICC. Of course, it was a coalition government that signed up to it in the first place. But this was in news.com.au. It says a panel of experts have weighed in after Peter Dutton flagged potentially cutting ties with the International Criminal Court over its pursuit of Israel's Prime Minister. But it turns out this panel of experts was a bunch of journos on Q&A.
Oh, look. This is where you want leadership in this country. Now, I've called it out last week to get out of it, pull out of these organisations, pull out of who are trying to put together an international pandemic appraisal of what we should do. We are a sovereign nation. For Christ's sake, we elect our own members of parliament. Let's run ourselves instead of these international idiots that never set foot in our country and telling us what to do. Let's get some strong leadership. That's why we're in the hell of mess that we are. All this way of critical thinking, the wokeness that's going on, all this control. We're paying billions of dollars to these organisations, the UN, what they do. These people have their own self-interest of where they want the world to go. They want to control everyone. All the plebs, they want to rule you, that you will lead you like sheep to the slaughterhouse while the rich get richer and we live in poverty.
Yeah.
That's what it's about. People have to realise what the hell is happening, and they're doing it through the climate change BS that they're ramming down our throats.
Speaking of which, you've called on David Crisafulli, the LNP leader in Queensland, to commit to protecting the Great Artesian Basin from future attempts to use it for carbon capture.
Yes, I do, because I don't trust him. More than likely, he will end up the Premier of this state. And as far as I'm concerned, I don't trust him. He's gone for the treaty in Queensland, and he's also has backed the Labor 75% net zero by 2035, and I don't trust him. As far as I'm concerned, no one touches the Great Artesian Basin by putting supercritical hyper waste into it from the power station, destroy the water source that's the biggest of its kind in the world, and it covers the 4 states. So I want a commitment from him, and because he's one of his members of his own LNP, Susan McDonald, Senator Susan McDonald from North Queensland, she's approached some councils to tell them to back it so that you can put the waste into the Great Artesian Basin. Stephen, we're talking about, initially a 330,000 tonne trial, but they're looking at around about 730,000 million tonnes of it to put the waste in. This all comes from this climate change, having to get rid of the carbon dioxide waste. This is ridiculous.
Yeah, it's certainly frightening when you talk those figures. Pauline, always good to talk to you. We'll catch up again next week.
All right, thanks, Stephen. Sorry, I get so passionate about this sort of stuff, and I get so angry because these idiots are not thinking things out. There's no future thinking, Stephen. You should see that, know that, and talking to these politicians. So they only do things for the short term while they're in Parliament just to get themselves re-elected. There's no long-term vision and the damage they're doing to our country. That's what upsets me.
That's why we love talking to you. Good on you, Pauline. 6255 1206. Pauline Hanson back with us next week on the program, 29 and a half past 8.